Alright, so looks like no one else is here yet, so I set up a temporary chat to at least start somewhat on time. Still waiting for other people to join. If anybody wants to join me in this, I guess I can put the link for this hangout in this stream. So that's in the pop out. If anybody's interested in joining me, so that way I'm not just here talking to myself. I'm not sure if other people are, just not able to make it at 4 o'clock or what, but that should be the time of the stream. I know my stream times have been jumping around lately, but from now on, or at least for the next few months, Tuesdays should be good again for me. Let me pull that stream up. I don't know what's going on here. Alright, so, purposes, I guess maybe before people start showing up, I've got a couple announcements to make. So, I have been in talks with a company that's based out of California that does cryptocurrency, and they have agreed to help me fund Fair. So my internet project, that's my social media platform that I've been working on and off for the last year. Anytime I've got, anytime I don't have other obligations, I am working on either trying to fund this platform or building the behind-the-scenes code and that sort of thing. So that's what I've been devoting all my extra time and energy into. I guess one of three things: either trying to get more money to purchase the things that I need to purchase to get this to become a reality, or working on the code, or spreading awareness, because I've done that as well, as going on various videos where they're talking about either cryptocurrency or the problems with social media and saying, hey, by the way, I'm working on a social media platform of my own that addresses these issues. I heard about one recently. It's a free Zoxy, which I thought, after hearing their initial description of the problem, I was like, oh, maybe this is something that is already in the works that is solving these issues. And then as they described the platform, I'm like, oh, well, you understand the problem, but your solution seems to be more of the same. Which, so I guess I gotta clarify. I really like Minds, I really like Gab, and I really like the people behind Free Zoxy seem to be pretty good, upstanding people. So all the people that run these companies or that run these platforms, they seem to have the right intentions, and they seem to be creating something that people need at the moment. My problem with each of them is they are not long-term solutions. My problem with each of them is they are not independent. They are always reliant on someone else. And that is a problem, because Google is not reliant on someone outside of Google. When Google does something, people follow. Minds doesn't have that capability. It's not just because they don't have the user base and all that, is they aren't sustainable on their own. They are not self-sufficient. Their business model was, we'll create the platform, then we'll figure out how to sustain it financially after the fact. That's backwards. Because if you think about companies that have been successful, well, one such platform is PayPal. PayPal had an initial investment cost. Yeah, and so they were initially they were losing money because they had to give out money in order to spread awareness of their platform. But once people started using their platform, they started making money immediately. And by the time they got their user base to where it was noticeable, they were already in the black. So as their user base grew, they actually started earning income on their platform. Whereas companies like Mind and Gab, they're still like, oh, well, once we get to a certain user base, then we'll start making our money back. And you're like, that's not a very good model. That's not a very good business plan. Seems like it's doomed for failure to begin with. Another example, so PayPal, I have to clarify, I was listening to the interview where he was on Dave Rubin, Peter Thiel, is that how you pronounce it? Tool? How do you pronounce that last name? I'm drawing a blank on it. Peter something. Thole? Something. It's not a common last name. But he's one of the co-founders of PayPal. He was talking about how they got it started, and basically they sent emails to friends and family saying, oh, hey, by the way, if you click this link and you start an account on PayPal, you have money in your account that you can withdraw or spend or whatever. And that's how they started spreading PayPal around to being this huge organization that it is right now. Because people would check their email and be like, okay, whatever, I'll sign up, create an account, free money, right? But as more users started creating accounts and like, oh, free money, oh, by the way, I can send money to other people using this? Okay. I've got bills I need to pay, and, it's cheaper than sending, credit card payments and other things like that. And so they started using their service to send money to other people. And every time they did, PayPal made money. Now, Minds and Gab and this Free Zoxy and several other upstarts like BitChute and things like that, they're still not financially stable. I should clarify here. They're not financially stable in that they are spending more money than they are earning currently. All of these alternative platforms. Actually, even YouTube is spending more money than it's earning. But that's a kind of a separate issue because YouTube is owned by Google, and Google makes money hand over fist, so they can afford to lose money in their YouTube department. Twitter is making more money than it's spending to run its platform. Most of the other Facebook is making money hand over fist as well, so that's why it can continue to exist. Minds, Gab, and all of these alternatives, they are relying on the initial investment people made into their companies. So, Minds and Gab had an initial Kickstarter or whatever campaigns where people raised money, and they ended up raising over $1 million to get their platform started and all that sort of thing. They are coasting off of that initial investment, and they're telling their users, once we get our user base large enough, then we will monetize it to the point where we're not losing money every month. We're actually either breaking even or making money on this endeavor, which is how they hope to increase the value. Like Minds has a stock option now, or had, where they're selling shares of their company, and they're hoping that the value of their company will increase as their user base increases, because that means that they're making more money than they're losing. But if the trend doesn't change in 5 years' time, or possibly less, I don't know exactly how much money they are bleeding every month, but within the next 10 years, that company will cease to exist if it keeps at its current pace. YouTube has been around for more than 10 years. Facebook has been around for more than 10 years. Twitter's not quite at that mark, but Twitter can go the distance of being around for more than 10 years. These alternative platforms, not a one of them that I know of, has a way... actually, Steemit's probably the only one that has somewhat stability. As far as it can probably be around for 20 years without issue, because as far as I know, the cost to maintain and all that sort of thing is drastically reduced compared to these other platforms. And as far as that one actually might be somewhat sustainable, although I think there are issues with Steemit, and I guess I would address that. Anyway, these other platforms do not, from everything I can tell and from everything I can glean from the outside looking in, they are not currently sustainable, and they are hoping that they reach a certain user base of whatever they require, and then they can start monetizing by advertising and things along those lines in order to make their platform sustainable. My platform does not have that issue. Yes, we do need a certain number of active users, and yes, we do need a certain amount of money per month coming in to reach that sustainable level. That level of sustainability is fairly low compared to these other networks. But as far as all of that, the method that I plan on making my network sustainable is simply people using the network the same way PayPal was having people use their network to make money. Because like I said, when I've initially created this platform, the initial idea is it is a payment gateway first with a social media platform built on top of it. So it is a payment gateway, even though ideally this is a alternative to Patreon, or at least stage one of my platform is basically an alternative to Patreon. But Patreon isn't a payment gateway. They facilitate all of their payments through PayPal. That's dumb. Because as we've seen with Mines and we've seen with Gab and all these sort of things, PayPal can stop facilitating their payments. If they don't like what Patreon is doing, PayPal can say, oh yeah, whatever, we're just not going to process any payments made through your platform. We're cutting you off. That's all they need to do. And then Patreon is belly up. I mean, maybe they can get Square or some of these other payments to facilitate their transactions, but right now they are relying on PayPal playing nice with them. And as long as they keep, censoring content and playing political correctness, Patreon is going to keep getting support from PayPal. Now, my platform being a payment gateway, that means we are the ones directly facilitating those transactions, operating on the same level as PayPal. That means, because this is not something that's like super difficult and that sort of thing. It's something that's expensive as far as the software and the requirements to become a payment gateway. That's a bit expensive up front, which is why I'm seeking funds and all that sort of thing, which is why, going back to the start of this, where I was talking about this little bit of announcement, the company I've been talking with is helping me raise funds to facilitate those payments. I've already set aside funds and all that sort of things for this particular aspect. I mean, it's all sunk cost at this point. I don't have the money anymore because it's sunk into this already. As far as the payment gateway thing and all that sort of, but this company, I'm trying to remember the name. So I don't know. Because I know this is, so when I originally started talking with this company, they were talking about Red Pill Coins, but Red Pill Coins has not been performing as well as we'd hoped, or as well as they'd hoped, so it's still there, it's still doing well, just not as well as their other, so they're trying to promote their new endeavor, which is Bitcoin Galaxy, and that's what they are helping me pay for my site with. So this is Bitcoin Galaxy. You can go in and create your own wallet and all that sort of thing. Bitcoin Galaxy is a cryptocurrency and all that. If you go over there and check it out, I wasn't planning on having a cryptocurrency integrated with Funfair to begin with, but since they're offering to help me raise the necessary capital to get Funfair launched, I have no problem with integrating their wallet into my system. So there's a couple of things I need to change in my system in order to integrate their wallet, but it is very low. The amount of effort and energy involved in adding their wallet to my system is pretty minor, considering that they're trying to, if they are by themselves, at least this is the terms of the partnership is that they will help me raise the $10,000 that I am seeking. If they help me raise that amount, specifically just by themselves, not that amount, I mean, not in addition to the funds that I've already raised on the GoFundMe, which $200-something is it's a drop in the bucket when you're seeking $10,000. But anyway, so them by themselves, if they are able to help me raise $10,000, either through various methods, either the increase in the value of these Bitcoin Galaxy currencies. As far as right now, the coin doesn't have a name itself, but the Bitcoin Galaxy network is a network built on Ethereum. And so as time goes by, the value of that currency is expected to rise because there's a lot of people actively mining it and actively trying to get involved in that network. So this is kind of, if you followed it all, Bitcoin. That's my other example. So PayPal did it the right way, became stable relatively quickly within their first year of existence. Actually, I think they hit stability like within 4 or 5 months, especially after they, it was the rapid growth of their network, but also the fact that they were making money within their first year. That eBay was like, oh, okay, this is our competition to our own payment system, and they're doing it, and they're succeeding, so we'll just buy them out, and and that has been making money for eBay for since they bought it out. Anyway, the other example of a system built correctly, or at least built with the idea of sustainability in mind, is the Bitcoin network. Granted, the Bitcoin network didn't have a huge upfront cost. In order to start the network and start trading currency on the network, like when it started, the upfront cost is, I can't imagine it being more than $1,000 on the ends of the people running the hardware and all that sort of thing and spreading. It's open source, I understand this, but there was the time that it took to develop, the code itself, and then spreading the word about the code. You got to think, it's not just monetary investment as in, dollar bills. So it's the time and energy and effort, and how much and how soon that effort is rewarded. That's what I'm talking about here as far as the overall value, not necessarily US dollars, right? It's as far as US dollars that were invested into cryptocurrency or into starting Bitcoin. I can't imagine it being more than $1,000 on top of whatever the existing hardware that they've already bought for their computer programmers and stuff like that, and they're spreading this around the network. The upfront cost for the initial people, because it's all open source software, the main cost of the platform would be the time and energy sunk into trying to spread the word, creating the software to begin with, spreading the word about it and all that, and trying to generate interest in the platform. A lot of time and energy, didn't pay off for the first several years, because it didn't have a huge capital cost as far as money, currency, US dollars, whatever that cost, they could keep putting their time and energy into building up the platform until the platform ended up paying off hand over fist. Because the value of Bitcoins increased, and the people who were holding Bitcoins from the beginning, because they were involved in this network, the people who got in on the ground floor, after a couple of years were able to sell off their Bitcoins, and hey, I made profit, so my time and energy that I sunk into this were rewarded. And now the Bitcoin platform is much bigger, and now Bitcoins, instead of selling for less than a cent per Bitcoin, they're now still in the several $1,000 range. But the people who got in on the ground floor, hey, they made their investment back. They made their money back, and then they were able to also use that network to facilitate payments, that would have cost them money to do via other methods and stuff like that. So this is a sustainable network. And the reason it's sustainable is because it rewards people for using it. So not only is there there's it has value because you can transfer currency in the same way as any other type of, PayPal has value because it allows you to send money from one place to another across the internet. Bitcoin offers a similar functionality, and you can transfer value from one place to another across the internet. And it's still fairly cheap considering. It's just a little time consuming now because the network is, bloated to the size that it is, but it still has that value. But both PayPal and Bitcoin reward users of their system through various methods. Like PayPal has cashback options. They also have their own credit card, so you can actually I want to buy something and I don't have a credit card, and you don't have a bank, whatever. PayPal has their own credit division. and all that sort of thing. Oh, yes, man.
Hey.
So there are reward systems for people using PayPal as opposed to another system. And the big thing that helped Bitcoin blow up to the point where it is the ability to mine Bitcoins and get rewarded for helping that platform grow and helping that platform become secure. And that was the idea that was at play when I was like, okay, so Funfair, yeah, it's a social media platform, it's a payment gateway. But how do you get people interested in that? The same way PayPal got people interested in their platform, the same way Bitcoin got people interested in their platform. It's the reward mechanic. It's the using our system it's not just a service that costs you money, it's also a way that you can earn money. That's why I was like, okay, for my system to work, okay, well, what Bitcoin does is they take transaction fees for money going across the network. They take a small transaction fee or whatever, and that transaction fee is actually offered as part of the reward when someone mines a Bitcoin. If you're not familiar with the process, there's about every 10 minutes someone wins the Bitcoin lottery. In that they successfully, it's they're not going into the details of it, but basically someone is awarded Bitcoins for mining on the server, which helps increase the security of that network. Because they're helping increase the security of that network, and because they're helping facilitate transactions across the network, they get rewarded in the form of Bitcoins. And some of those are newly generated Bitcoins, and some of those are the Bitcoins that were taken out of the transactions. So that percentage of transactions, so the more transactions there are, the more percentage of that transaction, the more reward. But usually it's a fixed amount that the person actually gets anyway. So this is the idea. So Bitcoin has a fixed number of coins that will ever be on the network, but even once it reaches that point, although that point is probably, you're talking about like 2060 before that even becomes remotely possible. But even once the network of Bitcoin gets to that point in 2060, if it's still being actively used and actively traded, the reward for mining will be the portions of those transactions. It won't be new coins added to the system because the system has a coin cap, but it will be, hey, there are so many transactions on the network, say, $200 billion went through in this 10-minute period. Well, your percentage of that is 2% or whatever, and then you get that much of a reward in Bitcoin. Anyway, that's the rewards of that network. So my system operates on a similar principle in that a percentage of, my network has a cost, right? I have a percentage of the transaction that we are going to take because we're facilitating your payment. We're taking money either from your bank or your credit card, putting it into the network, taking that money from the network, and then giving it out to somebody else's credit card or bank account or whatever it is. So in order to facilitate that, we have to take a small portion of it. But that small portion of it, we take part of that and set it aside in a fund. So we basically, I'm not going to go into the full details of how it all works. Basically, we have, hey, this is our money, like the Funfair corporate. This is their profit, their return on their investment and reward. But part of that is set aside in a separate pool of money, a separate bank account that we can't touch because that is the money that is distributed to the network. And I'm working on the percentages and how all this is going to work. I'm still working out the kinks and how much exactly I need to charge and how much exactly I can set aside. But assuming there is $100 in that lottery pool, that means people on the network have a chance to winning up to $100 just by participating in the network. That's the incentive part of this. People will join the network so that way they have a chance of winning that money that's sitting in that lottery pool. I call it a lottery because that's essentially, that's the best word, but when I say lottery, people think, oh, you mean like gambling. I'm just like, it's it's not a gamble if it doesn't cost you anything to earn it. It's still a lottery, but you don't have to pay for a ticket. It's not a raffle. Anyway.
Is this about Bitcoin tanking recently?
No. This is just me making an announcement about my. So I joined up with another company called that is, and this announcement that's on my website just came back up yesterday. It was another headache of dealing with banks not talking with each other, and holidays interrupted all of that. So I was like, oh, well, I gotta fix this, and I can't because banks are closed. Anyway, so I couldn't fix it till yesterday. So I did fix that issue with payments not being processed and all of that sort of thing. Ugh. Yeah. So the site is back up again. It has the announcement on there where I've partnered up with a company that owns the Bitcoin Galaxy network, and they've offered to pay $10,000 or to help me raise $10,000 to launch my network. And so that's. I mean, I spent 30 minutes talking about this and talking about other platforms, but yeah, Bitcoin is tanking pretty hard lately. It's sad. It looks like it's on its way out, possibly forever. I don't think that is the case because Bitcoin has an inherent usefulness. Like I was talking about earlier, it's inherently useful to be able to send money worldwide the way Bitcoin can. But it's probably losing market share because there's alternatives that aren't as costly as Bitcoin is right now. Because when Bitcoin first started off, the transaction cost on the user's part was negligible. But as the network increased in size and all that sort of thing, the cost per transaction grew because of the limitations of the network. And if you've seen videos on this, those are limitations that are built into the system on purpose, because if those limitations weren't in place to begin with, the blockchain, instead of it being one common block that just stacks on top of each other and keeps going on, it would start branching. And it would start branching to the point where people, so basically right now, there's one common block that everybody's using, and then there's a potential for branching. Like, oh, wait a minute, you said that you spent your money here, but we're showing that you spent your money there. One of these is wrong, we're not sure which one. And what the blockchain does right now is it waits and figures out which one is going longer. And it says, okay, this one over here is longer, cut this one off, readjust that, now we have just one common column going up all the way. So the limitation is to make sure that there's not so much traffic on the network that both are going at the same time, and that you have, instead of it just being the two branches, imagine if this branch branched off again, and this branch branched off again, and then those branches the network couldn't handle it. So it limits how fast it can operate, so that way, okay, there's a split, we don't want more splits, so we're going to handle this split before things split again. Handle it, resolve it, wait for the next split. The split is unavoidable. There's no way to get around a split ever occurring, because there will be disputes on a network. The limitation is the method which that dispute is handled. And right now, that dispute is handled, okay, this one is longer, that means more people validate this particular this transaction, so that's officially what happened on the network, and we're going to ignore the other one. The dispute is overridden by the majority. But if there's more than one dispute, there's no way to figure out who the majority is, because there's too many disputes. It becomes chaotic, and that's why Bitcoin is suffering right now, is because the network is so large and there's so many transactions happening per second. There's so much more chance of multiple disputes and multiple branching. So the network is intentionally limiting itself to make sure that if there is a dispute, it's only ever two disputes at a same. It's only ever the one branching as opposed to multiple branching, because the network couldn't handle multiple branching. So other networks have seen this dilemma coming. Ethereum is built on blockchain, although instead of having the issue with multi-branching, Ethereum can run much faster because rather than relying on a majority, which is hey, this chain is longer, therefore the majority say that this is what happened and we ignore the smaller branch, Ethereum actually has a central authority saying, okay, there's a split here and there's a split there. That split's correct, that split's correct, that split's correct. So it's able to operate faster, but it's relying on that single point of failure, which it's a small compromise in security in order for this network to operate faster. Anyway. So Ethereum is gaining grounds, and like I was saying, Bitcoin Galaxy is actually built on the Ethereum network. So it is, right now, it's on its way forward. It's actually, yeah. So I mean, there's statistics you can look at. That network seems to be growing pretty largely at the moment as another potential competitor to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's still king of the mountain right now as far as overall network size and the amount of money flowing through that network. But Ethereum is catching up on it. But within the Ethereum protocol, there are several networks within that standard. Just like, I mean, Bitcoin and blockchain itself has other, like Litecoin and Namecoin and Dogcoin. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other that operate on the similar protocol to Bitcoin. In the same veins, Ethereum has a bunch of other networks within it. It's a standardized, this is how we're going to operate the network, and then people can create their own networks within that follow the same rules. And that's where Bitcoin Galaxy falls. It's part of Ethereum, or it follows Ethereum, but it's its own separate network. And you can go to the site and look at the details. But that was the news that happened. It happened before Thanksgiving, but it wasn't quite finalized until today, because the announcement I wasn't able to post the announcement on the website itself. Now that that's been facilitated, they're going to announce it on their end, and hopefully, well, there is a slight delay that's going to occur because of this. I was hoping to have Funfair out by January, but as time gets closer to that, it looks like January is not going to be possible, although first quarter of 2019 is looking possible considering this partnership. So, provided this partnership goes through and I'm able to raise the $10,000, we could see Funfair as early as February of next year. I mean, possibly even late January, depending on how things go and how quickly I can get access to those funds. Another announcement. So, man, it's already almost 5 o'clock. Ugh, we're never going to get to the actual topic here. All right, so another announcement is I possibly will have to take a break from doing streams for a while. I am not certain on that. Starting in January, I will be moving to Virginia. And I just got just had a phone call earlier today, and that seems to be the case. So starting January 7th, I will be moving to Virginia for 12 weeks.
So you've been in Washington State, Missouri, and Virginia. I've been to Virginia. It's not bad there, actually. I've been to Manassas, and I think that was perhaps one of the major parts that I've actually been to. What part of Virginia, if you don't mind me asking, are you going to?
I am not sure the exact. I know it's in the D.C. area. I don't know if it's actually Washington, D.C. itself. I do know it's close to Washington, D.C. I think it might be like a suburb area, and I will be out there for 10 to 12 weeks. And then during that time, I will be informed where I'm going to be, where my contract will be for the next 2 years. So that's part of a job that I was just hired for. So just got the confirmation earlier today, and I was like, oh, hey, I'll announce that on my platform. But so the 10 to 12 weeks in Virginia is part of the training program, and I don't know if I can stream while I'm participating in that. However, once my actual contract starts, it's a 2-year contract with the company. I don't know the location where I will be, but once I get everything set up there, then I can start going back into the habit of streaming. Although it's definitely going to put it's definitely a stumbling block for my other business. So my other business that I've been trying to run and raise funds for Fund Fair is called Fair Market. It's an online merchant services and that sort of not merchant services. It's just buying and selling things online. It's buying cheap and then selling them. Selling cheap, buying from wholesalers and then reselling. It's and like I said, recently I got a hold of a liquidation of a store, and so I bought a bunch of products for, well, some of them, a lot of them I actually got for free, and the rest of them I got for 80 to 90% off and stuff like that. And so if I turn around and sell them for half of what other people are selling for, I'm still making money. It's like, oh, I'm still making, the difference, right? If I bought it for 90% off and I'm selling it for 50% of what the actual cost is, that means I keep the 40% in between. So that's the. But if I'm in Virginia and all my stuff's here, that kind of that's gonna put a little damper on all of that. So I am not certain what's gonna go on with that.
I activated my body cam.
Keep your hands out of your pockets.
What?
You or me? I've got some advertisement or something playing in the background. Something about body.
Yeah, there's
cams.
nothing playing on my end.
Oh, it's got to be on my end, which I'm not sure where it's coming from because
Yeah.
I don't have anything else open.
So this what the fuck? Topic is
Okay. So back to the actual topic. It is foreigners that are more American than you.
I feel very patriotic right now hearing that.
And so I just created so my list is pretty small. I tagged them all in the actual video description, or at least most of them that I wanted to talk about. So these are either people who have immigrated to the United States that embody the American spirit, or people that have been pro-America, pro-American principles, who don't live in the United States, or but they have helped the United States, or their lifestyle or their values fall in line with what we consider like. So these are people like, hey, if they came to the United States, I'd be like, yes, that's a win for America, that sort of thing. And so to start off my list, we talked about this last week. Barbara for you to see, so that's good. My number one draft pick for America. So she is currently in Slovenia right now, which is her home country, and she came to the United States for schooling and was here for, I think, 3 years total, because it was 2 years for school and then 1 year after for her visa. So, because that's how it works in the United States. When you come over, it's if you're planning on coming for a 2-year school, the time for you get coming a little bit before school starts, whatever, but then you have your visa status is you're legitimately in the United States as long as you're attending school for the full 2 years, and then you get 1 year after school where your visa is still valid. And it got to the point where she's waiting on a new visa that would allow her to work in the United States, because the student visa is just, hey, you're here attending school, but it doesn't allow her to do things like get full-time employment and things like that. So she had to file for a separate type of visa in order to remain in the United States. That process is still going through. I haven't heard any new updates on that as to whether it was approved or not, but rather than have a lapse of a visa and be here illegally, she went back to her home country and is waiting on the status of that visa approval. And if I was in charge, I would say when she's approved, but that's then she gets to come back to the United States, and she's going to come back here, and she's got several projects in the works that she was hired to help with, like web series and stuff like that. She had various acting gigs that were lined up for 2019, but can't really do anything along those lines until that visa is approved. But as far as what makes her more American than you, okay, I've been watching her videos for years, 2 years now. Yeah, I've been yeah. That makes me sound like a stalker, right? Yeah. She's got a YouTube channel. She's been doing that since she was 16. She's been actively creating content since she was 16, so it's been over 10 years because she's 26, maybe 27. Anyway, somewhere around that range of having at least 10 years of YouTube video content, and I haven't gone back and watched all of it because that would be insane. Just 2 years of it, that's not so much insane. No, that's not helping my case here. Anyway, so what makes her embody the American spirit is she has a dream and a vision of what she wants to do with her life, and nothing is going to stop her from doing that. Her goal was to come to the United States and become an actress. And that's the goal she's had, and she talks about repeatedly in the videos when she was younger, is she's going to be an actress, and she got acting gigs in Slovenia, been in advertisements over there, had news articles written about her and stuff like that, created an acting reel based on that and her YouTube videos, sent it off to a school in the United States. They approved her, so she worked her butt off working 2 jobs in order to afford, and waited 2 years after being approved, so that way she could build up the finances required to pay for her enrollment. Came to the United States, and, supported herself through college. And granted, yes, I know people have contributed to her GoFundMe project and to her, and paid for her YouTube account. But people paying her for the service of the videos that she's provided, and because they are fans, that's still self-made. She's earned that money. I don't know. In the same way, somebody goes out on the street corner and plays an instrument and sets out a guitar case, and people come by and put money in the guitar case. They've earned that money. So the fact that she's able to put herself through college, get her degree, and land several acting jobs, that means she is self-made. Wasn't relying on other people to get her done. Wasn't saying, oh, well, I can't follow my dream because I don't have the money right now. Well, she scrimped and saved and worked her butt off to get the money required, came to the United States, has various videos where you're like, ooh, she lives in a terrible part of L.A., you genuinely feel, like, man, I am worried about her safety right now, but apparently made it through unscathed. But that's the kind of, hey, you have a dream, you come to America to fulfill that dream, and you do it on yourself. You're not relying on government handouts, not relying on welfare, not relying on not saying, hey, I'm here, give me all your stuff. It's okay, this is what I want to do. What do I need to offer people in order to do that? How can I best serve other people? That's the idea behind capitalism. The idea behind capitalism. I want X. In order to get X, I have to figure out how to best serve other people until I get enough money to buy X. That's capitalism. The only way to get X is to, even if you're the most terrible person in the world, you have to figure out, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? I can provide those things in exchange for money, so that way I can use that money to buy what I want. You can't get money from those other people if you're not providing them something that they value. And that's what Barbara has been doing. She was a bartender. She's worked various crappy jobs, cleaning toilets. She's talked about that extensively in her videos of all the stuff that she went through just to put herself through college, just to become an American citizen. And she's doing this the right way. Not like these migrants on the southern border crossing the wall. Hey, we need to become American. You know, it's the you're going to make us Americans whether you like it or not attitude. Whereas Barbara was like, I'm so devoted to doing this the right way, even though she could have stayed in the United States for a few more months because her visa was still her student visa was still active. She's like, rather than risk being in the United States illegally, she went back to Slovenia to wait for the approval process of her legitimate visa. That's what Americans should be about. Like, okay, even at my own expense, I'm going to follow the rules that we've all agreed on as a society is best for society. It's putting America's interest ahead of her own. She could have stayed in the United States, and a lot of immigrants do this. They get a visa, and then they overstay their visa. But that's putting their own interest ahead of the interest of the United States, or the values of the United States. So the very fact that she's like, okay, rather than risk being here illegally, at my own detriment, I'm going back home, waiting on the approval status to do this the right way. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, with in Barbara's case, I mean, I guess it's also the risk of, you know, like obviously deportation, like of staying in the country, that they would have eventually figured out, oh, this person, their visa's expired and they're now here illegally. We're going to deport them.
Well, if you look at the actual statistics for this, when you look at illegal immigrants in the United States, the vast majority of them are people who have overstayed their visa. Now, granted, the border wall, the migrant crisis and stuff like that, people crossing the border illegally, that happens as well. But more than 60% of illegal immigrants in the United States, well, I guess immigrant implies that they actually came over illegally or through the legal method. So these illegal aliens, that's a better terminology to describe the vast majority, more than 60% of illegal aliens in the United States are people who overstayed their visa and weren't caught. And a lot of them go decades without being caught. Because nobody's keeping track of this, whether they left the country or not. And part of that reason is ICE is too busy protecting the border walls from those who are crossing illegally. Now, once that is all settled with, then they can actually devote times like, okay, what about all those people with expired visas? Did they leave the country? They can actually start taking time to like, okay, we stopped the people coming in illegally. Now let's start handling the people who are here illegally. But right now, those are kind of lower priority. And the amount of people who've overstayed their visas is more than the people coming in. But the people coming in is more of an issue. Because at least the people who got approved in the first place have had a background checked. They've verified that, okay, this is who you are. We can check with friends and family from your home country. Yeah, you don't appear to be a criminal. You're who you say you are. Inviting you to the country is actually going to be beneficial to the country. Okay, you can come in. Now, if they overstay, well, that's breaking our rules. But they're not as much of a threat as someone, we don't know who you are. You just came in. We don't know who you are, where you're from, if you're friends and family. Like, we have no idea of what your character is. We have no idea of your background. We have no idea if you are a criminal. And going through, if you look at the statistics considering the current migrant caravan, that's not the current invasion caravan that is in Mexico, they've said that there's over 500 known criminals. Like criminals, and these are not just, they stole something. No, these are people who are known murderers, known rapists, known arsonists. So these are people who have committed heinous crimes
Yeah, serious
Yeah,
offense.
serious offenses. And you're like, no, those are people we don't want here. So if someone crosses the border illegally, we're like, you could be, yeah, you could be Saint Teresa or Mother Teresa. You could be Gandhi version 2.0. Or you could be the guy who rapes and murders people. We don't know. So that's more of an immediate problem, is stopping you from coming in. And like, okay, if you want to come in and you are Gandhi 2.0, you should have no problem getting in. I mean, it's going to take a while. That we do need to streamline this process. This process seems to be bloated and arbitrarily inefficient, as most government projects are. So as far as the legal process to get in, it shouldn't be as complicated as it is. We need to streamline this, make it easier. But that's probably not going to happen until we can secure the border and like, okay, so that way we're sure that everybody coming in, we can verify who they are and figure out, okay, is this someone we want here or not? Once we get to that process or that part, then it'll probably be the case where they can actually start streamlining the actual process of getting people through faster and getting people in. But as long as people have to deal with the people trying to come in illegally, that's more of a priority, and there's only so much you can do at once, right? You're like, hey, this is a problem, but we can't deal with that because there's a let's say, I'm trying to come up with a good analogy. It's like, oh, well, that door is broken and the lock doesn't work right, but my kitchen's on fire. So, let me fix the lock, right? Because that's the problem, right? Is the lock that works every once in a while or slows down. But there's a kitchen fire. Which one should I deal with first? the migrant crisis, or the illegal caravan or whatever that's trying to cross a border, that's the kitchen fire. Our legal system is inefficient, that's a broken door. That's a door that sticks and doesn't open all the time. Deal with the kitchen fire first. Yeah. Anyway. So that's my number one draft pick. Let's see. So, number two on my list. Let's see. I didn't exactly order them in. All right. Let's say I'll go with number two being Julian Assange. So, he is Australian, but what he has done with WikiLeaks has benefited the American people more than most people in America have done. Because he is exposing corruption in our government, in our media, and WikiLeaks, whether Donald Trump likes Assange or not, WikiLeaks is part of the reason Donald Trump is president. WikiLeaks released all the they were the one of the primary sources talking about Clinton's email issue, releasing documents, and it's like, okay, this is the stuff she tried to hide. I mean, explaining in detail what exactly was going on there. I mean, a lot of the information was, sure, there was a congressional investigation, but a lot of the information that I found out is all through WikiLeaks, as far as, what was going on there. And meanwhile, CNN is saying, oh, you can't look at these WikiLeaks documents describing what's going on because that would be illegal. You have to trust us. CNN can look at them and tell you what's in them, but you can't go and look at them yourself because that would be illegal. No, it's not illegal. You guys are lying to people. Yeah. Well, CNN's, yeah. And then WikiLeaks was calling them out on that shit. So they were one of the primary drivers of spreading truth about Clinton and truth about Trump during that time. WikiLeaks has also released, just corruption in the military, corruption with the NSA, responsible for informing the people of things that they should know, things that are being hidden from them. that should be public knowledge. And that goes along the lines of the American spirit. And if you look at what the founding fathers did, like when they were revolting against Britain, Britain was cracking down on communication, as all totalitarian governments do. Crack down on information, stop spreading information about what we're doing, what the British government is doing that the people are opposed to. When someone dies in a, if someone was killed or raped by a British soldier, they would cover it up and prevent the spreading of information. And yet, part of the revolution was people spreading around pamphlets saying, hey, this is the crime that just occurred in that city across, this is a crime that you didn't hear about. This was covered up. This person was raped. This business was ransacked. These people are paying this much in taxes. That spreading that information around is what got, that's the Tea Party. If you look at how they organized that, they're like, yeah, these are things that the British government isn't telling us about what's going on, and how do you spread awareness to that? Well, you spread information, and then you go and organize these protests, so that way people pay attention to it.
Yeah.
There's without this, if printing presses and all, like Benjamin Franklin was pretty huge in this, and printing flyers and spreading information about, and it was also pretty integral to getting information about the Constitution and the Articles of Confederation and all that sort of thing as well. But we'll just focus on the Revolutionary time period. This is the same Paul Revere, right? The reason you even know his name is because it was his job to go in and inform people of what was coming. The Assange is the Paul Revere right now of our day and age in the digital age. He's saying, hey, the British are coming. The British are coming. Was it one if by land, two if by sea, right? It was one lantern, so it was by land as opposed to by boat, whatever. Came through, let everybody know, hey, by the way, all you people who prepared, the British are right there. That's without that information, without that being, they would have stayed in bed, and they would have, the British government would have come by and overthrew the revolution and stopped it in its tracks. Assange is the similar in that he's the one spreading this. Hey, you got, wake up. This is what's going on. Wake up. This is what's going on. Fight against this. Without that, the totalitarian government comes in and takes control, and it's too late by that point. So that's why I was like, this guy is more American, and even though for some reason Donald Trump seems to think Assange is a traitor, I don't quite understand that. Part of me wonders if this is 5D chess, where, hey, Trump says he hates Assange, and so the left is like, dude, Assange is amazing.
Yeah, it's like what you said, that if Donald Trump took a swing to the hard left, they would spite him by going to the right.
Oh no, dude. He made a tweet about Nancy Pelosi, saying something like, "Oh yeah, she should be she should be in charge of the Speaker of the House."
Yeah. And
Democrats came out. Democrats came out against Nancy Pelosi because of that. And you're like, what?
I thought it was fucking hilarious. I'm like,
they're like, well, if Trump says Pelosi is who we should put in charge, she's probably the worst candidate. Let's put these other people in charge instead. I was like,
they're not really wrong, but still, it's really funny.
But until he said that he's that she's who he wanted as speaker, she was the front runner. She was the one everybody's like, oh yeah, she's Nancy Pelosi can do no wrong. She was their poster child. And as soon as Trump says, yeah, she should be the speaker, everybody's like, oh wait, maybe there's something wrong with her. And then they start notice the corruption and the failure. You're like, oh. They turned a blind eye, and she was the golden child who could do no wrong despite all the failings that conservatives were pointing out. Until Trump gave a small endorsement for her, everybody else turned a blind eye to all the failings. That's bizarre. So it makes me wonder, and this is something QAnon has been apparently talking about, how. And I don't know what QAnon is. If you've never heard of QAnon, it's it's the idea, or supposedly it's a CIA thing where it's spreading information. It's bizarre. Because what QAnon is part of the where the information regarding Trump's Syria attack. They're the people who are all behind the Trump's 5D, 7D chess ideas. Like, oh, yeah, everybody thought this was Trump making a mistake, but look, this has a positive turnaround, and maybe there's something like secretly beneficial going on here, and it's not the end of the world bad Trump that everybody thinks, because there's a reason behind this, and if you think about the reason, it's ultimately good. And yes, I've fallen down into some of those rabbit holes. When Trump bombed Syria, I can't see that being a mistake, because so many of those Tomahawk missiles missed the target, and you're like, it's like, incompetence is one thing, but that level of incompetence has to be intentional. In which case, and then following that up with the MOBA, not MOBA, Mother of All Bombs, Moab. And the Moab drop on the cave system that was later reported to be like an ISIS stronghold. You're like, okay. It's the idea of the smoke and mirror that Trump is saying, look over here, look over here, look over here, whack! I guess maybe that wasn't on comment. Look over here, look over here, look over here, smack! That's the QAnon is talking about. That's what Trump is doing. They're the ones talking about that sort of thing. And so they've been talking about Assange actually in talks with Trump, or at least somebody in his administration, on coming into the United States. And for Trump to do that and not have it look suspicious, rather than have him come in and just, get a full pardon or whatever, Trump is asking for him to be extradited and brought into the country as, let's see, I don't think it's an actual criminal charge against him from the United States, but I think he is supposed to be a witness in court. And so this is basically like a subpoena where they're like, hey, we're going to escort you into court, and then we're going to have you answer questions in front of a judge. I think that is what the requirement is right now. So it's not that, hey, we're going to bring him to the United States so we can throw him in prison. It's we're going to bring him to the United States so he can answer questions before a judge. Whether those are questions about him or about some other incident, I don't know. I haven't seen any information regarding that. But QAnon is the ones who are spreading information saying, Trump is working with Assange, and all of this is smoke and mirrors, so that way he can get Assange in the country without them really noticing, or without them thinking anything about it. And once he gets here, Trump's going to use the information that Assange has to expose the Democrats for all of their corruption and all the evil stuff that hasn't been getting as much attention as it should have. As far as QAnon is also saying that Clinton is currently being monitored by federal agents and has been brought before secret courts and stuff like that, as far as criminal trials concerning her acts as Secretary of State. So who knows? But because there was this weird thing where John McCain and Hillary Clinton both had boot clamps at the same time, and they were huge casts, and it was on the same foot. And what people were saying is that they had tracking devices, house arrest anklets, basically. So some kind of federal agency was tracking their movement, and in order to hide the fact that they were wearing this ankle tracker, they had said that they broke a leg and then put a cast over the ankle tracker to make, so when they made public appearances, people didn't see oh, wait a minute, you got a location tracker on your anklet. What's going on there? I don't know. That's all conspiracy. That's all that's all Alice through the rabbit hole. And you can keep going diving down there, but that's QAnon is the source of information like that. Now, whether QAnon is legitimate or just trolling or even a CIA false flag, who knows? They have a lot of interesting stuff that tends to come out of those discussions. You're like, that seems like it's believable. I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, so there's talks that possibly Trump understands that Assange is acting in America's best interest and the world's best interest by exposing corruption, because it's not just corruption in the United States, but corruption elsewhere in the world. And he wants Assange in the United States under American protection. Possibly, if Trump has the opposite mindset and thinks, as he's stated publicly, that Assange is a traitor, or maybe not traitor traitor may not be the word he used. He might have said treason or an enemy of the state or something like that. If he actually thinks that, I would hope someone would come and change his mind, because as far as I'm concerned, Assange has done a lot of good for the American people. So, my number 2 draft pick. Probably should be number 1, but,
If Julian Assange was a woman, maybe.
Yeah, that's what it is. If I was trying to smash Julian Assange, he would be my number 1 draft pick. That's... No. I mean, come on. There's other reasons besides that, but okay. Yeah, to say that that's not part of the equation would be a lie. Anyway, okay, so it is 5:13. Okay, let's, Alright, I'm just, instead of trying to go in order, I'm just going to name off people. So, Lauren Southern, yeah, she's hot, I understand this. That's not the reason she's on this list. If you have seen the documentary Farmland, if you have seen any of her work on YouTube where she's going out to these protests and interviewing people, just the information that she is responsible for bringing to the forefront on a lot of these issues, that's what Americans do. You look at something and you're like, hey, this is something that's wrong, and spreading the information, making sure people are aware of the insanity that's going on. Lauren Southern, she's Canadian, but she embodies the values of free speech and making sure that people know what is going on, so that way they can act accordingly. She has been responsible for, it was part of her documentary that brought the issue of the not technically a genocide, but the atrocities that are occurring in South Africa, brought it to the UN, where the UN was talking about it. Donald Trump was tweeting about it. Like, that is... it is if you've seen the documentary, or if you've looked into any information about it, what is going on down there is absolutely horrific, and it is going to ultimately hurt the blacks in South Africa the most. Yes, whites in South Africa are dying. Yeah, they are being murdered and raped, and children are being boiled alive in bathtubs. Yeah, that's horrific and insane. But when you think about, these are farmers providing the majority of the food in South Africa, and if they all leave, or if they are all killed, South Africa is going to starve. The majority population of South Africa, which is black, is going to starve in the same manner that Zimbabwe did, in the same manner that Venezuela is currently starving. South Africa, in the next 10 years, is going to end up in the same place if they keep doing this. So, while the immediate concern is for the safety of the whites in South Africa, the long term is like, yeah, that entire country is going to see massive starvation and death unless they stop this idiocy and this insanely immoral actions. So, bringing attention to that and making the UN actually, forcing the UN to do, to at least acknowledge it, and to start an investigation into it. Trump started an investigation into it on his end. Like, that impact is huge, and I don't care if she's Canadian. That's something that's like, okay, someone who has done that for... And the good work she has done hasn't really been for America, but for humanity in general. But somebody who has done something like that, you're like, yeah, I would... Those are the types of people we want to be able to call, hey, you know Lauren Southern, who brought this whole issue to the forefront, who's made these documentaries, who's brought this... Yeah, she's American. She's one of us. That's someone you would want to be able to brag about. Granted, that's a small, stupid... Oh, hey, you're from Chicago? Yeah, go Bulls. Like, it's kind of that idiocy is like, oh, hey, we're from the same area, therefore we can take credit for what she's done. I'm like, no, it doesn't quite work like that. But those are the types of people that you want associated with you. You want in your vicinity. You want, like, okay, we want more of those people in our community. That's what I'm trying to say here. I don't think it's just the, hey, she's American, take credit. Yeah, that's good. It's the, no, she's somebody that we want in our community. Now, right now, I'm saying these people are more American, but if there was a new country, like say in the Pacific Ocean, just a new continent, we'll call it Atlantis 2.0. If this was a country that was new or whatever and was built on, if I could turn that into Ancapistan, right? These are the people I would want in Ancapistan, making sure Ancapistan is free from corruption and informing people around the world what's going on and making these concerns, bringing these concerns that, like, these are the people I would draft into my, hey, you are now part of Ancapistan. You get first, these are my first round picks for that. So even though I've said these people are more American, I mean, these are the people like, okay, if I had my own country, these are people I would want in my country. People like this, doing these sorts of actions, because these are admirable traits and people that you're like, yes, if these people are there and other people outside of this country see these people as examples of the country, it's going to encourage them to act in a similar manner. At least that's the hope. Is the, hey, these people are doing it right. They're getting rewarded for it. Follow their example. That's what I mean. That's what I would hope would occur, but you never know. All right, so okay. So I've said 3 so far. Do you have any that you want to talk about? I've realized I dominate conversations, and you haven't really been saying or adding too much input in the last couple of streams. I'm like, oh, I need to.
Not entirely, really. I was just wondering, like, your full list, because I'm like, this is going to be interesting enough to hear, because I'm thinking, definitely it's going to be, I'd be shocked if it wasn't, what the hell is her name you mentioned, number 1? What
Barbara?
is it? Barbara, yeah. How the hell did her name not pop up in my head? Yeah, so I'm like, Barbara's definitely the top pick, but like...
like I said, it's not just that, hey, I would want her to be in America somewhere. It's kind of like that, if I had an extra room in my house, I would want her to be in that room. It's like, okay, this is the type of person I want to...
I'm
terrible,
sorry,
right?
You walk in on that too much. But, I mean...
Well, like... Okay, because so if you've read any of these like How to Win Friends and Influence People and Think and Grow Rich and all this sort of thing, they all talk about having a close knit group of an inner circle of friends and people that you talk to, and because these people challenge you to be better, they challenge you to be smarter, they correct you when you're wrong, and they help you to be a better person overall. And sometimes it's called a brain trust, right? Barbara, for you, so not only is she kind of embodying the American spirit, but if you watched her videos when she talks about topics, she doesn't just present the topic. She goes in and researches what's going on. And so when she talks about an issue, what she provides, like, because I've seen other YouTube, commentators or whatever, they will release a video the day of and just talk about the basics. But when Barbara goes through and makes a video, she's got lists of resources and articles about that issue and supporting documentation talking about the issue and going in depth into what the problem is. And yes, sometimes it's funny and crazy. You're just like, hey, just laugh at the insanity. But other times, like when she talked about Gloria Steinem and the feminist movement and how she was a CIA asset who founded this magazine that was basically a propaganda piece for the CIA. I mean, it's like, that's information that was already out there. But you will not see someone like, trying to think of, you will not see a Blair White making a video like that. Even though Blair White's supposedly conservative and, even some black guy who was actually friends with Barbara, they've done a couple videos. His videos, when he talks about a topic, you're not going to see a video that goes in depth talking about, the feminist movement being started by the CIA and one of their assets as far as spreading propaganda concerning that. That's the kind of thing you're not going to... I mean, I wouldn't even expect that sort of thing from Roaming Millennial, who's also on my list, but as far as the videos she's done, and yes, they are somewhat researched, and they are not to the same level of scrutiny that I've seen from Barbara. When she talks about a topic, it's not just the emotional gut, like, oh, well, I think this today, and you can see that before she forms an opinion, she's like, wait a minute, that's not right, and then investigates why and goes down to the root of the problem, and then is like, okay, this is what I found, and this is why I hold my belief. That's something I've seen repeatedly done by her, and I haven't seen it done to the same level or extent, even from Lauren Southern in her earlier videos. Granted, in her documentary, that's the kind of... I mean, there's definite research and investigation into issues there. But when Lauren Southern was first making videos, and she's just doing a slut walk video, right? She's just going around interviewing and saying, hey, yeah, rape's not the United States is not a rape culture, or Canada's not a rape culture. And she was going to these slut walks. Okay, that's the in-your-face, there's not much behind it, right? There's not much depth to it. So her earlier stuff was kind of along those lines. It was just sensationalized, but not much depth to it. Where I've seen Barbara, I mean, yeah, there's crazy videos that she makes just about, like, cats, or where she's interviewing her dog or something. Okay, yes. But interlaced through there are in-depth research pieces on topics. You're like, oh, wow, I learned a lot in that video, and I was not expecting that. But it shows that it's not just accepting things because they're popular. Like, so one clear example of this was when the whole social autopsy controversy was going on. Everybody was so quick to jump on the bandwagon, and I would like. So I mean, my initial reaction is, "Oh, are these claims accurate?" And when I saw what Barbara was doing, Barbara was like, "I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to make a decision. I'm going to directly contact Candace Owens and get the information." And she had Candace Owens on her channel, and they streamed together. And I was like, "Okay." Getting the information from the source, whereas so many of these other people were so willing to talk about the issue secondhand. We're willing to make accusations without investigating, oh, hey, well, this other person on YouTube said it, and then they just repeat it. And I saw that circle jerk going around between all these people, and I mean, that's where I lost. I was like, okay, I'm not going to support this person, all because of that controversy, because I saw, like, not one of you is accurately investigating this. Not one of you has sought out to talk with her. No, like, Andy Warski's like, oh, yeah, debate me, or whatever. These, so, hey, you need to come on and debate me. And it's like, all you need to do is ask them a question, like, oh, is this true? Can you verify this? Can you
I'd love to see Warski debating her coked out of his mind. That would be awesome.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, but they're like, oh, well, we asked her to debate and come on our show, and she didn't, so therefore this is true. And you're like, that's not how this works.
Well, my opinion of Candace Owens is I think she's pretty hot.
Oh, yeah, she's pretty hot. But she's American, so she's not on this list. But I was saying the way that Barbara was like, okay, before I make a determination on this, I need to make sure I have all the information. And that's something I haven't been... Anyway, and that's why my opinion of her as it is as high as it is because, like, okay, these coughing fits are not fun.
No.
Can
but
imagine.
it's when I see that, like, okay, if that's your initial reaction and that's how you handle these situations, those are the types of people that I would want in my brain trust. Of like, okay, you don't, yeah, you're not jumping on bandwagons. You're your own independent person. It shows a level of critical thinking and a devotion to the truth over what you want the truth to be, or over what you know. It's the okay. In order to make a good decision, or in order to make a valid opinion, I have to know the truth first. That's something that is very shallowly done by a lot of other YouTubers, and is like in some cases you can't find it at all.
Right.
So that's something that's admirable. And I'm like, okay, that's why top of my list. It's not just because she's hot. There's other hot women on my list, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't hold them kind of in the same regard, I guess.
I do have to go, but thank you for having me on, and take care, guys.
Okay. So, yeah, so this stream is I'm talking about people who aren't from the United States, who I either would like to see become citizens of the United States, or who at least embody the values of the United States. And you're like, yeah, those are the types of people that we want more of. That we, like... So I've said Barbara for you to see. I've said Lauren Southern.
She's not
I've said
in the United States. I thought she was.
She was in the United States as on her student visa, and she is now back in Slovenia because she is awaiting approval of her work visa.
I just thought she was American. I guess I haven't watched that many of her videos, so I don't know that much. No,
she's not American, and the accent is very. She speaks multiple languages too, which is really impressive. So in English, so not only just Slovenian and English, but let's see what's Serbian and Croatian. What is some? She's spoken some Russian. I don't know how fluent she is in these other languages, but she's done videos where she's said phrases in like 4 or 5 different languages, which is really cool. And another sign of intelligence is the ability to learn multiple languages. So again, that's why she's top tier. She's god level draft pick.
Whereas I'm one of those retards who only speaks one language.
Well, I only speak one language as well. I mean, I know a bit of Spanish. I can say phrases and stuff, but I haven't used it enough to.
Yeah.
¿Dónde es el biblioteca?
Yeah.
Wait, how is that ever going to be helpful? I don't know, but I learned it in school.
Omelette du fromage.
Is that French?
Yes. Dexter's Laboratory will get that reference.
Oh, didn't watch enough of Dexter's Lab.
Well, there's this one episode. This is from way he tries to learn French in his sleep. Okay, and he repeats a French. He tries to put what's that? But it ends up just repeating the same phrase, and afterwards, that's all he says throughout the entire episode. It's fried cheese sandwich in French. Omelette du fromage. Okay. That's literally all he can say. And what's funny is eventually some girls start taking notice of Dexter French, which is just because he's speaking a phrase in French.
All right. So yeah, from this point on, these aren't in any particular order. But okay, so Tommy Robinson's another guy, which I am surprised at because he did come to the United States, and then the United States for some reason sent him back to England, like under. That's a weird situation. Because he was actually under arrest, not because it's illegal for him to come to the United States, but for some reason England did not, or the UK did not want him to come to the United States, and so he broke a rule in the UK, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That whole situation seems, it's like the United States shouldn't have abided by. It's like, well, if somebody is entering in the United States, hasn't broken any laws here, isn't like wanted for for extradition to some other country, but for some reason, when he came to the United States didn't allow him in and sent him back to the UK for some reason because he was I don't know the full extent of that, but I was thinking during
live. We're broadcasting on your channel.
We're live, right?
Yeah, this is live. This is broadcasting, so it doesn't say on the air in the Google Hangouts, but that's because I do the OBS thing. Yeah, but Tommy Robinson is, again, so a lot of the people on my list are, the reason that they are on my list is because they are spreading information when they're talking about corruption. So I mean, I've talked about 3 people who've actively been involved in this, right? Lawrence Southern, Julian Assange, and now Tommy Robinson. And Tommy Robinson is famous for reporting on grooming gangs that are being ignored by the authorities in Rotterdam, and what was the other one? Not Manchester. Yeah. So so basically towns in the UK that have active pedophile rings. And the authorities and governments are turning a blind eye. And he is reporting on the incident, and that's what got him in jail in the first place, is he was talking about this, and, people in charge are like, hey, don't expose our corruption, and they put him in jail where he got his teeth bashed in, almost lost his life, came out, and what does he immediately start doing again? He starts exposing and talking about the corruption. Starts talking about how, hey, these people are so afraid of being called Islamophobe, they're being considered intolerant, that they are allowing children to be molested. That's insanity. And he's gone on talking about this. In the most recent incident, he wasn't even talking about something people didn't know about. He was at the courthouse talking about the people who were in the courthouse facing charges of grooming gangs. So grooming. It's a more common term used in the UK, although it does happen in the United States, although, as far as I know, the term grooming isn't really used. So basically what this is similar to human trafficking, where they have children or individuals who are either separated from their family or are intimidated to keep silent about it and are kept in that sort of environment for years until they accept it as the norm. So a lot of people who go through human trafficking, they are intimidated into keeping silent about their status as being in the country illegally or being held against their will and being forced to perform sexual acts. So grooming gangs is along the same lines, but usually the grooming gang, they haven't kidnapped the person. They've just intimidated the person into silence.
Do you think he should be brought over?
Who?
Count Dankula, the guy at the Nazi pug.
Yeah, if the UK was hostile towards him, yeah, Count Dankula, I think, would be
hostile towards him. They arrested him for a joke. Where he made it. Which is really bizarre to me because there's been Nazi jokes in various forms of comedy for decades. Is springtime for Hitler illegal now?
I don't know.
Yeah, Mel
It's like people don't get the joke.
I remember Springtime for Hitler. That was a whole massive comedy bit mocking the Nazis.
Yeah, it's from the
producers.
The producers, yeah.
Yes, which is one of the greatest comedy films ever made.
Yeah, and the remake of it is not as good, but
the remake was not
Will
as
Ferrell.
good.
Yeah, Will Ferrell makes the film at least tolerable. The rest of the stuff is like, eh. But the original with Gene Wilder, yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, Mel Brooks made that way back when.
He actually made both of them.
During the war, there were a lot of great bits of Nazi comedy. There's one cartoons that I absolutely adore. They're on the Looney Tunes Blu-ray set called Private Snafu. Okay, these cartoons, they were specifically made for the military. All right. But they had Mel Blanc from the Looney Tunes voice Private Snafu, who was basically the world's worst soldier, okay? And similar to Kenny from South Park, he died at the end of every cartoon, basically from doing various things soldiers shouldn't do, all right? And there were lots of great Nazi comedy in those.
Huh. I'll have to look into those.
Yeah, the funniest one, this one was fucking hilarious. It was one where he learns a secret, okay, a military secret, and he learns not to blab, and all these various birds that work for the Nazis with swastikas are like, he's got a secret, we gotta get him to spill it. So he goes up, they get him drunk, okay, and he hooks up with this woman, okay, and he starts saying, I gotta get back to base because we're going out at 3:30, and this was really funny. Her boobs transform into radio receivers, okay, and Adolf Hitler is at the other end listening to him, like, yes.
Yeah, well, that's from Looney Tunes. That's okay.
Well, by some of the creators of Looney Tunes. It wasn't really one of the Looney Tunes. It was from that time period, though.
Yeah.
It was made not for the general public.
Okay, so it was only shown like to military personnel, and it was probably like
correct, but it was done by many of the creators of the Looney Tunes, and also
so it's kind of like the in-flight movies, right? The little where they have celebrity personalities come in and do, and it's intended for the people on that particular airline, and so they've got in the military they've got like propaganda movies, like, okay, while you're here, this is what you're gonna follow, and so it's more.
That is what it was made for, but props to that, because her boobs transforming into radio receivers and Adolf Hitler listening on the other end, that is fucking hilarious.
So Count Dankula, if he came to the United States, I'd be like, oh, dude, that's a win for the U.S.
And I am not saying that to suck his dick so he'll come on my channel. No, not at all. That was a joke.
He is engaged, and I think he likes women.
Joke, God damn it. I have a dirty sense of humor, okay, so, but
I
would never do that so you would come on my channel, never.
Yeah,
but I'm saying,
but as far outside of the Nazi pug joke and his staunch stance of being like, okay, I'm not gonna take your BS, and actually I'm not gonna pay your fines and all that sort of thing. His absolute defense of himself. I'm like, no, I did nothing wrong. I'm not gonna pay. I'm not gonna put up with your BS. Yeah, that's along the same lines as the American spirit. Like, because if you look at other people in the UK,
absolutely.
Other people in the UK are pansies about this, and they're like, oh no, don't tase me, bro, or whatever. And then they're like, oh, whatever I have to do to not, to not be. Yeah, but Tommy Robinson and Count Dankula are both like, no, this is something that's wrong. I'm standing up against it, and you guys can go fuck yourselves.
Exactly, and I like that attitude.
Yeah, and if you look at the original colonists in the United States, that's where they're like, hey, this is not right. You should stop this, and we're not gonna take this. We're like the Twisted Sisters. We're not gonna take this anymore. That's the founding fathers.
Take it.
Yeah, that's the attitude of the initial revolutionaries. Like, no, this is too far. You guys are out of your minds. We're not putting up with this crap. Stop it.
Yeah, right. That's how. Yeah, we stood up to the fucking British crown.
Yeah, and so with Tommy Robinson and Count Dankula, they're basically standing up to the British, the British authority figures in their protests. And I'm like, yeah. Because, like, Tommy Robinson, you sent him to jail. He got his teeth knocked out. He's had his life threatened. And what does he do? Is immediately after getting out, starts doing the exact same thing that he went to jail for.
That takes
like, hey,
balls.
This is bullshit, and I'm calling it out, and I'm standing up to this bullshit. That's what we want in America. Those are people who embody that American values and spirit. So, yeah.
Hey, I got Batman the Animated Series on Blu-ray today.
Oh, cool. So you're going to do reviews on that?
No.
Oh, you're not gonna do
Batman the Animated Series is good. I typically only review that
oh,
stuff. Like,
okay. So
there
when
was
you,
like a
yeah, typically your reviews are like negative and like, okay, this is all the stupid crap in it.
Yeah.
If you enjoy something, you don't make positive reviews. What?
Well, did you see my last couple Gargoyles videos?
Yeah, I did. I think I've seen all of them up until now. Because the most recent one was the Broadway Goes to Hollywood, right?
No, I did one after that.
Oh, I haven't seen the one after that then.
Yeah, I did a Bronx Tale. The one where they tackle the Amish.
What?
Wait,
you don't mean literally, right?
No, not literally, but they feature the Amish heavily in the episode, but then just kind of...
Why?
For no reason. That's the real thing. You have the Amish in an episode. You could have done something with that, like they did in the Avalon World Tour. But really, the kid being Amish has no effect on the story whatsoever.
Oh. Okay.
Lazy writing.
Well, I've only got about 15 minutes, and I got a couple other names on my list. So I'll just name off the people on my list, and if you want to talk about anyone specifically, we'll go into that. So I've said Barbara, I've said Julian Assange, I've said Lauren Southern, I've said Tommy Robinson, and we've added Count Dankula. He wasn't on my original list, but yeah, that's a good example. Now, Sargon, he needs to stay in Britain.
He needs to stay in Britain, damn it.
Yeah, given his current, the stuff he's been doing recently, I'm like, well, if you had asked me this question 2 years ago, I'd been like, yeah, Sargon he's somebody that, but he's not as consistent as these other people.
Well, so I heard from Anita Sarkeesian that he's a garbage human too.
Well, yeah. So he can come and visit the United States whenever, and I've got no problem, and I still subscribe to his content and listen to him, but he is, for every time there's a good Sargon, there are 2 times where he's a bad Sargon. And I'm like, no, how can you have that?
Sometimes he acts like a jackass. Other times he makes good points. I'm honestly, I'm kind of indifferent towards the guy. I don't dislike him, or I don't like him that much, but whatever.
Yeah, I saw his debate with Adam Kokesh, and while I'm not a Adam Kokesh fanboy or anything like that, I understand where Adam Kokesh is coming from. I'm like, okay, yeah, that seems to be the correct ideology. And some of the things Adam Kokesh argued and were just like, I'm like, no, that's a bridge too far. That is just stupid and insane. But what I saw mostly was Sargon saying, oh, well, the EU is bad for the UK, which is why I was supporting Brexit, but we still need a government. And I'm like, what? You can't be like, oh, here's an example of a government that's abusing their authority and is illegitimate, so we're separating it from it. But if Wales wanted to separate from the UK, he's like, oh, no, they can't do that. I'm like,
no,
what? How is that not the same thing? It's like, oh.
Yeah, I think Thunderfoot made that point. I was wondering your opinions on the whole thought audit. All right.
Oh. It is funny, but
it is hilarious.
But it is definitely being abused, and
oh yeah.
And so, while the idea is hilarious, it's not something I can support because the IRS is absolutely terrible, and giving them more power and giving them more people to tax. Yeah, that doesn't fly by in my book. So, well, it is funny that these hoes are being, they're being disciplined. You know and so yeah, Sargon did make a video about that.
Why you give money to like a cam girl, like a prostitute? It makes sense. You're paying to get sex, but with a girl over the internet, why not just like watch porn for free? It never makes any sense.
There's plenty of free porn websites streaming 24/7.
Yes, there's plenty of free porn websites. Why would you give a cam girl your money?
The other thing that so the cam girl thing, I understand that there's a market for it. I don't understand that there's a market for softcore cam girls. You're like, you're telling, so there's Cam Soda and there's Pornhub and whatever are these other websites that are dedicated to women showing their tits for money. Okay. I don't go there. I'm not ever going to put any money towards that, and I would never, but I understand people would. I don't understand, oh, she's going to show me cleavage, I'm going to pay her money. Wait.
Really? It makes no sense.
If you're going to pay $20, you can pay $20 and see a full naked woman and tell her to do things, and she would do them on camera. You're paying $20 to have some girl pretend to play video games and then bend over and so you can see her in shorts.
Or you could just hire an actual hooker and have her, be there right in front of you. Oh no, save your money for that. It just seems like a better.
It'd be like, instead of spending $20 to see, she bent over in short shorts. You're like, instead of paying that this month, save up for 3 months and then get a full naked woman to suck your dick.
It makes more sense. But what was I?
But they're not apparently not very bright.
A lot of them prey on I think dudes with mental illness. That's kind of why I look down on them.
Yeah, and so the thought audit has gone too far because there's people who don't fall in that category who are being audited. Like Roosh V or whatever was talking about Brittany Venti, and I'm like, okay, Brittany Venti does use her sex to sell. I get that.
Well, what's
but that's not all. She doesn't just show up on camera and then pretend to be stupid and then show her boobs and get paid for that. No, she actually talks about stuff, and she's like a super troll. She was trolling the Shia LaBeouf. He will not divide us stuff.
Well, let's be honest about Roosh V. The guy's a complete douchebag.
Yeah, the thoughts are people who they have nothing other than their boobs. That's why people watch it. Like, oh, hey, she's gonna do something stupid and probably flash her panties or something like that on stream. That's what people are paying for. Brittany Venti doesn't do anything along those lines. Although, yeah, she does wear low cut tops, wherever, so you can see her boobs. And yes, people subscribe to her because she's hot. I understand. But there's a distinction between thoughts and what she's doing, at least in my mind.
Is she really that hot, though? I mean, she's cute, I guess. But,
I wouldn't give her money, but apparently she made like $30,000 or whatever. But the other stupid thing is, so with the thought audit, Roosh V was talking about Brittany Venti not paying taxes because she got $30,000 this year. I'm like, nobody has filed taxes for 2018. Nobody.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, that, and plus, how the fuck does he know her taxes? How does he know any of this shit?
He doesn't.
He's making it up. He's stirring up controversy for himself. That's what the dude is. He's a troll. He's a douchebag.
And I'm like, okay, so there's definitely people who stream on Twitch where they're playing video games and then they'll stand up for no good reason and lift their top up or they'll say, hey, look at my panties. Okay. They have nothing that they're doing other than showing boobs or panties or whatever. That's all they are doing. But being a hot woman that people want to pay to see, not the same thing. That a lot of these Twitch streamers, the whole point of being a Twitch streamer is you're watching somebody play a video game. Now, if somebody isn't playing a video game and is just flashing their boobs on Twitch, that's a thought. They should be doing that on Pornhub or wherever. wherever else.
I think that point is irrelevant. The real point is the point that's valuable is how the fuck do some of these guys know that certain
they
women
don't.
haven't been paying their taxes? A lot of them just seem to be making it up. And I know there were some women who were stupid enough to actually brag that they didn't pay taxes. Yeah. And for them, fuck them, because if you're that fucking stupid to publicly brag that you're breaking the law, you deserve what comes to you. Come on, you're gonna get caught if you're dumb enough to do that.
Now there is an exception. If these women are actually considered a corporation, well then they wouldn't have to pay yearly taxes. You have to pay quarterly taxes. But I don't think any of these women consider what they are doing an online business that is considered a corporate entity. So those would be personal taxes that they would have to pay, which probably they're probably going to end up paying more in taxes because they didn't file as a business, and so the amount of money that they're going to pay on these, the money people are sending them, is probably going to be higher at a personal level. So even though corporate taxes in the U.S. are pretty high, there are things corporations can do to reduce the amount of taxations and file for that individuals cannot. But I think these cam whores and all this sort of thing, what they're doing in this particular instance, probably going to end up costing them more money than had they just done it legitimately and done it as a corporation as opposed to them personally. I think that's how that works. Not 100% sure.
I really don't have a problem with women profiting off their sexuality. Like, I'm all for legalized sex work and what have you. I still kind of just found this whole story funny.
Yeah, I think it's funny. So what I don't like is people. It's a bit of a lie to have a YouTube channel that isn't about anything other than showing your boobs and panties. I'm like, okay, so it's advertising like it's something else, but it's false advertising, and it's like same thing with Twitch, because the idea of Twitch is you're watching someone play video games and stuff. So if you're using it as a cam whore site instead of as a video game site, you're like, that's not the purpose of this, and that's kind of fraud. Considering that there are legitimate, attractive women who sit there on stream and talk to people and play video games and don't do the hey, if you give me money, I'll show you my bra. And I'm like, if you're gonna show your bra for money or whatever, go to a different site. Because that's not the purpose of this site. But
or better yet, go watch free porn.
Yeah, that's what the dude should do.
Tons of it on the internet.
Yeah, I'm like, hey.
Don't give women money to show their bra. Just go watch free porn.
Yeah,
and save up money for a hooker. All right.
Yeah, I don't know why guys pay for that. No, it's anyway,
I don't understand.
All right. Okay, so some other names I haven't gotten to yet. So Stefan Monalou, I actually met him in July. Pretty cool dude.
Oh, you met him in person?
Yep. So I was at the Phyllis Schlafly Eagle Council here in here in St. Louis, and Michael Cernovich was there. So I got to talk with Mike Cernovich and Stefan Monalou for a couple of minutes after they presented The Hoaxed, the new documentary, talking about fake news and all that. So I got to talk to them. Cool guys. I wish I could have spent more time, but and so I was actually, Stefan gave a completely unexpected from my position talk at that event, because he was talking about the 3 temptations of Christ at that event. And he's a philosopher and an atheist, and so it was very weird to see him talking about something biblical and talking about how profound that those temptations were and why those were the 3 temptations that are presented in the Bible, and how those are the temptations that people falling for them have led to these massive atrocities. And I was like, wow, yes. You can sort of hear me talking in his video about that because I'm in the audience, and he asks some questions and I'm in the back shouting out answers. So it was cool that I got to meet him. Was hoping to get a chance to meet Candace Owens, but she was not there. Although I did hear Charlie Kirk speak, and that completely changed my opinion of him. I thought he was just an attention whore kind of thing. But as I heard him, like, oh, if this is the kind of lectures that he gives at these events, now I can see why so many people are participating in Turning Point and are seeing the value of this. I heard a couple other speakers were at that event and that sort of thing. But the only two that I actually talked with was Cernovich and Stefan Monalou. Oh, and who was the other guy? Oh. And the guy, never heard of him before that event, but he was giving a lecture on climate change. Gregory Wrightstone. I wanted to make sure that I got that name right. So he had a book about all of the misinformation going around about climate change and all that sort of thing. And his was the only lecture where protesters decided to do something and moronic chanting about when scientists lie, people die. And I'm like, yeah, and scientists are lying about the negative impacts of climate change, and they're saying stop burning fossil fuels, and they're telling people in third world countries, that they can't, how dare you participate in burning fossil fuels because you're killing the planet. And I'm like, but people are suffocating because they're burning wood inside their homes as opposed to using generators.
Need to have fewer kids, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, there's that too, but people are dying because of a lack of fossil fuels in these third world countries while these stupid, spoiled brats in the United States are saying, stop using fossil fuels. I'm like, that's part of the reason why a lot of people are dying in these third world countries is because they don't have access to clean energy or cleaner energy.
I think really, I think basically moving from coal to natural gas as is happening naturally in the market is doing its job, in my opinion.
Yeah, the move towards natural gas, which is primarily the result of fracking, which all these environmentalists are against. Any environmentalist
that opposes fracking is a moron because fracking is very good for the environment because it allows you to move from coal to natural gas, and natural gas is dramatically less carbon intensive than coal.
Yeah, if these environmental activists were so concerned with switching to fuels that produce less carbon dioxide, they would be all for fracking, and yet they're against fracking, and they're against nuclear, and they're against hydro, and I'm like, those are the three cleanest of all of the energy sources we know of, and you're against all of them.
Energy are dramatically lower carbon than by opposing them, they've actually ironically forced people to use high carbon sources like coal. Okay.
Yeah. Some of the other people on my list I don't have time to talk about, but I just want to go through the full list. Okay, so I'm just going to read off the names that I had. So Lauren Southern, Stefan Monalou, Lauren Chin, better known as Roaming Millennial. And when I first saw that name on Twitter, I thought it was a joke because her last name is so stereotypically Chinese. Okay.
She was Chinese.
I knew she said it was like a common Chinese name, but I saw the name and was like, oh, that's not her real name. Oh, that is her real name. Okay.
Yeah, I say bring all the hot Asian chicks into the States.
Habas. Okay, then I've got, so Barbara for you to see. Melania Trump was on my list. Dinesh D'Souza, I wish I'd gotten to talk about him a bit more, because I started listening to Dinesh D'Souza.
I met him in person.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I started listening to his stuff when he was debating Christopher Hitchens and all that sort of thing. And as I was watching those YouTubes of those debates, where they're talking about creationism versus evolution, where they're talking about, atheism versus Christianity and that sort of thing. And he's a really impressive guy in that regard. But then, then he's moved more into the political realm, and I'm like, wow, to see him bring that level of let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? Of I guess insight. Insight's probably the right word. To see him bring that same insight into that he was using in religion, to see him kind of transfer that and talk about politics, and I'm like, that's pretty impressive because a lot of people who get involved in they're a one-trick pony, like, and they only know about one thing, and that's all they ever talk about. But to see him, like, okay, so not only is he formidable when talking about evolution and creationism and all of that sort of thing, but he also has a very deep understanding of politics in general, which he's demonstrated repeatedly in the past couple of years when he's made his political documentaries. And he's also one of those people who has influenced. Was one of the major contributors to Trump's election, because he made that documentary about was it Hillary's America, or was that the name of it? Yeah. And that changed a lot of people's perspective on what was going on, and there's a lot of information that was in there that people had not heard of outside of that documentary. Jordan B. Peterson, he's gone downhill a bit in the past few months, but I still think his stance for free speech and a lot of the stuff that he's said as far as telling people to fix their own problems, like that's the whole clean your room mantra, is the stop trying to change society, change locally what you can fix, make yourself a better person, and then the rest of the stuff will kind of take care of itself. It's like, fix yourself first, take care of yourself, take care of what you can take care of. And if you've read his books, 12 Rules for Life, it's all about internal fixing or changing things about yourself, or changing your perspective on things in order to have a better life. It's that sort of thing. I was like, okay, that's exactly what...
I think Peterson's a pretentious hack, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of that going on, and there's a whole lot of, like, there's never a direct answer to anything, because everything is so complicated and nuanced.
He triggers some real fucking morons in the feminist left, who, like, really, his real arguments can be defeated. I've seen good refutations to him, but instead they'll shoot themselves in the foot by attacking total strawmen.
Yeah, so what you're saying, yeah. But I like his overall, what he has done and his contributions, so I would be okay with him becoming an American citizen. And so he's on my list of people that I would want to see, drafted to Team America.
President Trump, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I had
maybe President Trump is actually watching this live stream right now in the White House. Did that ever occur to you? Is that a possibility at all?
No, because if I probably only have one viewer, and if that one viewer happens to be Trump,
that viewer is Donald Trump.
Amazing. Okay, so this person's not alive anymore, but Ayn Rand, when she came to the America and she saw that huge disparity between what America was and represented compared to what the Soviet Union was, her writings on that and everything she's done as far as her philosophy of objectivism, it's talking about how great the American spirit is and how great American values are compared to the rest of the world. And the fact that so many current Americans can look at America with their vitriol and say, "Oh, America's terrible," and I'm like, then go live in the country that Ayn Rand escaped to get to the United States. Yeah, go. If you think America's so bad, go to Honduras, where those migrants are fleeing, so that way they can come to the United States. That's the type of immigrant that's like, okay, I understand exactly what's going on here, and I am so grateful for it that I'm going to spread the message to the entire world, and I'm going to tell people how great America is, and her influence on that alone, as far as, whether you like her perspective or not, Atlas Shrugged is still one of the most widely spread books in the world. And it's talking specifically about the values that America had and is slowly losing to communism, or to socialism that has infected our schools and our government. And so she's saying, hey, in order to fix all this, we got to return back to those American core values. Anyway, so that influence alone is like, she's more American than most Americans in that regard, even though she was born in Russia.
Well, honestly, having read Atlas Shrugged, I think Atlas Shrugged is actually a sex fantasy.
There's a bit of that.
If you really look at it...
Now, if you read The Fountainhead, you see it's even more so.
Ayn Rand's idealized version of herself, and she has various supermen
Yeah.
who are all described as being handsome and perfect, lusting over her throughout the novel. First Francesco, then Hank Reardon, and then Galt at the end.
Yeah.
All right.
And she's had sex with all three of them, right?
It's a sex fantasy.
If you've read The Fountainhead, that seemed to be kind of the central core theme of that book. It's less pronounced in Atlas Shrugged, but yeah, I get where you're coming from there. Okay, so I've said Tommy Robinson and Julian Assange. Gavin McInnes, even though he actually, I don't think he is an American citizen. I'm pretty sure he's still Canadian and he was born in Canada. But he works in New York, and I think he actually lives in New York, but I think his citizenship is still from Canada. So, yeah, if he switched over and completely came on board with America, that'd be a win for America. Yakov Smirnov, I didn't put him in the list, but he's, again, someone similar who was raised in Russia, saw communism and the detrimental effects of it, came to the United States and was like, yeah, you have the right answer, and built his entire career on pointing out why America is so much better than Russia. All right, but I do have to go, and I got a phone call.
All right.
Hello? Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Jerry, what's up? Oh, we are. Oh, yeah, I do not have my car, so I am at the house. I didn't hear anybody knock or anything like that. Yeah. Okay, alright. Yeah, okay, alright. Bye. Okay. Sorry, sorry about that. Yeah, I figured, because like I said, I did have something at 6, and I'm like, yeah, I figured he'd have knocked on the door by now. So I do have to go. It says everyone has left the call. Yep. Thanks for everybody who joined me, S-Man and Loudmouth with an opinion. I'm gonna stop the stream here. I've talked about the announcements about what's going on with me. So like I said, I'm probably gonna be stopping streaming for a bit while I'm in Virginia, and then once I get settled in my new location, I'll probably be streaming again. And I don't know what that's going to do as far as as far as development of Funfair, because I know right now I've got pretty much everything I need aside from funding, and so once I get the funding cleared up, I should be able to launch Funfair. But as far as fixes and changes to the code after launch, it's probably going to have to wait till after that 12-week period is completely over, and then I might be able to make changes and hotfixes and stuff like that, because I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of demand for improvements on the initial launch. But, that's going to be, as far as those 12 weeks where I'm in training, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do anything along those lines. Alright, and that's going to be it for my stream. See you again next Tuesday. Alright, bye.